Discover the incredible journey of a 58-year-old nurse who sacrificed everything for an amazing fight to save her community. Sarah Thompson took a deep breath as she stepped through the familiar doors of St. Mary's Hospital. The scent of antiseptic mixed with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee instantly filled her senses, wrapping around her like a warm blanket. Each morning, those doors opened to a world where she could make a difference, where lives teetered on the edge of hope and despair, and she had the power to tip the scale. But today, as she looked around at the bustling staff and patients, a heaviness hung in the air, a whisper of uncertainty and fear. As the daughter of a proud World War II veteran, Sarah learned early on that sacrifice was part of life. Her hands calloused from years of comforting others, she had devoted herself to nursing, putting her family and patients first. Yet now, it felt like the heart of her community was under threat. Budget cuts loomed large, carrying the chilling possibility of closing the hospital that was both a lifeline and a sanctuary. Her thoughts fled to her children, Stephen and Lily, grappling with their own battles. Stephen, who once brimmed with ambition, now struggled to find work, weighed down by the pressures of expectation. Lily, the dreamer of the family, contemplated leaving for a bigger city, bright lights pulling her away from their small town. The matriarch felt the fabric of her family unraveling, and it scared her. A lump formed in her throat as she thought of her father's lessons on duty and loyalty. In the break room, chatter softened as the rumors of the hospital's impending closure spread. Instead of the usual laughter and camaraderie, Sarah saw nervous glances exchanged among longtime friends who were suddenly divided. Tension was clawing at their sense of community. Fighting back tears, she recalled the barbecue nights when they laughed together under the stars. This sense of unity was slipping away. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. When a deceitful fundraising campaign popped up, promising to solve their financial woes but threatening to erode the principles of ethical care, the atmosphere erupted. Friends turned against each other, each voice ringing with accusations and anger. It was chaos, a chaos Sarah couldn't bear to witness. Determined to preserve the heart of her community, Sarah gathered her neighbors, vividly recalling their shared values of hard work and support. Together, they ignited a grassroots movement, pledging to fight tooth and nail for the hospital. She could feel hope stirring, but just beneath the surface, socioeconomic rifts began to reveal themselves, threatening to shatter the fragile unity they were fighting for. Then came the betrayal. Someone close to her lined their pockets with deceit, and the air crackled with accusations. As her resolve faltered and doubt clouded her heart, Sarah felt herself teetering on the edge of despair. In a world filled with division, the question loomed, could she really bring them together again? And with the calendar ticking down on the hospital's survival, the burden of sacrifice weighed heavily on Sarah. What would she have to give up? Could the bonds of family withstand the storm swirling around her? As she stared into the eyes of her community, uncertainty loomed. Was this the fight for the soul of her beloved hospital, or the beginning of an unraveling she couldn't control? Determined to face the growing threat, Sarah organized a town hall meeting, bringing together everyone she could muster. Word spread like wildfire through the community, excitement mingling with apprehension. As she stood at the front of the crowded room, Sarah's heart raced, an urgency pulsing within her. This was the moment, the chance to breathe life back into their shared spirit. The venue buzzed with conversations and hushed whispers. She watched as her neighbors filed in, faces a mix of determination and doubt. John, the local carpenter, and Maria, the sweet shop owner, exchanged uneasy glances. More chairs were gathered. As the townsfolk packed themselves in, it felt as if years of camaraderie had woven invisible threads among them. "Thank you all for being here tonight," Sarah began, her voice steady despite the storm brewing inside. "We are at a crossroads. Our hospital isn't just a building. It's the care, the love, and the memories that flow through its walls. We can't let it disappear without a fight. A murmur of agreement swept through the room, but a voice broke through the noise. But what can we do? We don't have the funds or the resources. It was Alice, a single mother struggling just to make ends meet. Empathy filled Sarah's chest, yet beneath it, her heart sank. Sarah focused on Alice, remembering her own struggles when she first became a nurse, juggling jobs, dreams deferred. I understand, she replied softly, her gaze steady. But we have something far more powerful than money. We have each other. Our hope, our will to protect our community. Inspired murmurs rose again, and the mood shifted. People began sharing ideas, charity events, bake sales, and even walkathons. The brainstorming felt electric, each suggestion stoking the fire Sarah had ignited. Yet underneath the surface, doubts lingered. The harsh reality of their socioeconomic divides had not vanished as they strategized. Sarah's heart quickened at the thought of their collective potential, but then the dark cloud of betrayal loomed ever closer. She knew the whispers about the fundraising campaign were just as fervent as the plans crafted that night. I believe in us, she declared, glancing around at every familiar face, each one a reminder of what was at stake. But we need to be united if we're going to fight back against those who would see us broken. A wave of energy washed over her. A chorus of voices joined hers. Together, people shouted, "We can save St. Mary's." The room filled with applause and laughter, the air thickening with hope, the kind that felt electric. Yet, even as her heart soared, Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. She knew all too well that betrayal could seep through the cracks of even the most fortified unity. Later that evening, Sarah returned home, her heart heavy with exhaustion, yet buoyed by the spirit of that gathering. Her children awaited her, drawn by an empathy and kindness she'd instilled in them. As she shared the night's events, she addressed their concerns. Lily listened, her gaze lingering on her mother's wearied face, and Stephen's silence spoke louder than any words. "It's getting tougher, isn't it?" Stephen finally said, breaking the stillness. Sarah nodded, her thoughts drifting to the uncertainty looming over them. She wondered if their family could weather not just this storm, but the challenges brewing between them as well. What if they also faced betrayal, much like her community? With the town rallying behind a cause, could Sarah inspire her own family to find that same strength? Or would the tides of doubt pull them apart just when they needed one another most? As she settled in for the night, fatigue threatening to eclipse her, she realized that the fight for St. Mary's was just beginning, and she would need to ensure her family was as steadfast as the town. But was she strong enough to face the battles ahead, both within her heart and in the world outside? The following day, the sun rose with a warm glow spilling through Sarah's kitchen window. She stood by the sink, lost in thought as she sipped her coffee. The aroma filled the air, but it did little to chase away the weight resting on her chest. Today was different. The reality of their meeting was settling in, and with it came the gravity of their ambitions. What if they raised enough money? What if it wasn't enough? "Mom, can we help with the bake sale this weekend?" Lily's voice snapped her back to the present. The child's enthusiasm was contagious, but Sarah couldn't shake her worries. "Of course," she replied, forcing a smile. "Every little bit helps." Later, as they sorted through ingredients, the laughter between mother and daughter rang like a sweet melody, providing a brief escape from the storm brewing in Sarah's mind. But just when the moment seemed perfect, Stephen appeared with a frown etched on his face, holding a stack of papers. "What's that?" Sarah asked, concern knitting her brow. "It's about the hospital. I overheard some folks at school. They're worried the hospital will close soon, even with the fundraising." He glanced up, eyes wide. "What if they sell it to a for-profit company?" The laughter faded. "For profit?" Lily echoed, her voice small. "They can't do that," Sarah exclaimed, her heart racing. "There must be a way to protect it." She moved to comfort her children, but felt cold fear settle in her stomach. The whispers her community had feared were becoming reality. The thought of strangers running their beloved hospital felt like a horror as the day went on. Sarah's resolve hardened. She couldn't let fear drive her family or her community into despair. They had to fight not just for St. Mary's, but also to keep that sense of togetherness alive. If they didn't act decisively, the very spirit they had ignited could wither away. After dinner, Sarah gathered everyone in the living room. They needed to prepare for what was ahead. "We aren't just planning a bake sale," she said, looking each child in the eye. This is about fighting for our community, our home. We need to reach out to everyone. We will host a big event, a festival. We'll show the world how much St. Mary's means to us. Together, we can inspire more people. Lily's eyes sparkled with excitement. Can I plan the games? Yes, Sarah said, encouragement coloring her voice. And we'll need decorations, Stephen added, feigning more enthusiasm than he felt. We can make signs about how important the hospital is. They spent the evening brainstorming, planning, each idea a thread weaving them closer together. Yet, in the back of her mind, uncertainty gnawed at Sarah. What if someone tried to sabotage their efforts? What if betrayal lurked around the corner, hidden where they least expected it? The day of the event arrived, the sky painted with brilliant hues as townsfolk filled the park. Laughter danced through the air, but anxiety simmered beneath the surface. Vendors set up booths, and the scent of baked goods wafted around, mixing with popcorn and cotton candy. Sarah watched families come together, but every face held a fear she couldn't ignore. She'd be lying if she said she wasn't terrified of how far they might fall should everything they built together crumble. Sarah, John called out, weaving through the crowd with urgency. Can we have a word? Her heart sank. What is it? Is it about the hospital? He nodded gravely. We need to talk, now? As she followed him, dread settled deep in her bones. What news was unfolding that could shatter the hope they all worked so hard to build? Something doesn't feel right, she murmured, her fingers tangled anxiously in her hair. Was it the plan that was unraveling, or was it her faith that had begun to crack? Her heart raced as John led her towards the edge of the park, where voices murmured in hushed tones. What did I miss? She wondered. Something told her she was about to confront the dark side of hope, a side she had been desperately trying to push away. An electric thrill coursed through her like a warning. She had to face whatever was coming. The stakes were higher than she ever realized. The moment was here. Would it tear them apart, or could they rise together against what lay ahead? As Sarah stepped away from the festival's joyous chaos, the tension in her chest tightened. John's grip on her arm felt both reassuring and unnerving. They reached a clearing where several community leaders stood in a tight circle, their expressions dark and worried. Murmurs flickered like shadows, and the closer they got, the more Sarah's heart dropped. Sarah, John began, his voice barely above a whisper, it's about the hospital. We just heard some distressing news. What is it? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Questions swirled in her mind. What could be worse than what they had already faced? We're not sure how this happened, John continued, glancing around the group as if assessing their shared burden. But a corporate buyer has expressed interest in St. Mary's. They're ready to make an offer, and it's a significant one. The air thickened, and Sarah's stomach churned. They can't do that. People rely on this hospital. It's not just a building. It's part of our lives. Each word felt like an echo of her earlier thoughts, but now they weighed more heavily than ever. People in town are frightened, another voice chimed in. If we don't act, this could become the new normal. A for-profit hospital doesn't care about our community. Sarah felt the heat rise in her cheeks. The laughter she had witnessed just moments ago felt like a distant memory. What do we do? She barely recognized her own voice, edged with fear. We need to unite the community. John spoke with fresh resolve. Rally everyone together. We need to make a statement strong enough that they can't ignore us. But, he paused, tears welling in his eyes. We're going to need more than just words. We'll need strategy, passion, and people willing to fight. This isn't just about fundraising anymore. A heavy silence fell over the group. Sarah scanned the faces around her, and in them, she found the reflection of her own fears, her own urgency. She thought of the stories shared with friends, the lives saved, and the memories made within the hospital's walls. Okay, she spoke, the determination in her voice growing. We'll organize meetings at the community center, enlist volunteers, and spread the word to every household. We'll take this fight to the town hall if we have to. John nodded, his eyes igniting with hope. We can even gather testimonials from families who've been helped by St. Mary's. Highlight those personal stories. It will show the human side behind the numbers. Just then, a loud voice broke through. It was Mayor Jenkins, his presence solid and authoritative as he approached. I've been hearing chatter, he began, but stopped as the crowd swelled around him. We need your support, Mayor. Sarah stepped forward. They want to take our hospital. We can't let that happen. He rubbed his temples, weariness etched across his face. I understand, but we need to approach this carefully. There are negotiations in progress. Negotiations? Sarah's voice was incredulous. We can't just wait and hope this will sort itself out. We need to stand up. The murmurings in the crowd grew louder, fueling her determination. They were scared, but they were also galvanized. Let us prepare a petition. Someone shouted from behind her. A wave of agreement rippled through the group, spurring renewed energy. As Sarah looked into the faces around her, she realized something incredible. They were ready to fight together. This wasn't just about her struggle anymore. It was about the spirit of the community they all loved. But amidst the hope blossoming around her, a new worry settled in. What if they come after us? She thought, anxiety clawing back. Fighting for the hospital meant taking risks that could hurt them all. With steely resolve, she glanced at John and began to plan. They would need to reach deeper into their community, gather stories, and motivate the town to action. She could feel that the battle wasn't just beginning. It was intensifying. As the group scattered to make plans, Sarah's heart raced. How much more would they have to sacrifice? And what consequences awaited them now that they had stoked the flames of hope? In that moment, she felt the weight of the fight not only on her shoulders, but woven into the very fabric of the town's dreams. Would they rise above the challenges, or would the trials tear them apart? The fire ignited, but would it be enough to spark a movement that could save St. Mary's? The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows over the gathering as Sarah turned to John, her heart pounding against her ribs. We need to act fast, she said, her voice gaining strength. Let us hold a meeting tonight, John suggested. Everyone must know what's at stake. They need to feel the urgency, just like we do. As they spread the word about the meeting, Sarah felt a fire kindling inside her. There was something powerful about the people coming together. While fear lingered in the background, it was slowly transforming into something like resilience. She imagined the faces of her neighbors, the children playing outside St. Mary's, their laughter echoing through the halls. The community center buzzed with activity that evening. Chairs scraped against the floor as families filled the room. Down the hallway, posters adorned the walls, reminders of fundraisers and community events, each carrying a piece of history. But tonight was different. It felt like the roots were deepening, intertwining around a shared cause. Thank you all for coming, Sarah began, stepping onto the small platform. Her palms were clammy, but she steadied herself and looked at the crowd before her. Tonight, we stand together not just as neighbors, but as a family. We will fight for St. Mary's. A low murmur rippled through the room. Faces leaned in, eyes shining with something she couldn't quite put a name to. Was it hope? Determination? Our hospital is more than bricks and mortar. It's where we celebrated births and faced losses. It's where we learned to heal and found care when we needed it most. Sarah paused, feeling the weight of their shared memories. If we lose it, we lose a part of ourselves. This fight isn't just about saving a building. It's about keeping our community. Cheers erupted, and Sarah's heart swelled. She glanced at John, who gave her an encouraging nod. The energy in the room was palpable. It ignited something deep within her. We have to show the world that we care, she continued, confidence pouring into her voice. Let us gather our stories. I want to hear every single one, how St. Mary's touched your life, how it's been there for you or a loved one. We will create a powerful narrative, one that can't be overlooked. Hands shot up, eager to participate, each person more determined than the last. They shared their stories of late-night emergency visits, of the kind nurses who held their hands during tough times, of families that were stitched back together with love and care. Each account was a brick, building a wall of resistance against the looming threat as the evening wore on. Laughter occasionally punctuated the seriousness of their mission. It felt good to connect, to remind one another of the strength they had always shared. But in the back of Sarah's mind, a shadow of doubt whispered. They were stirring a beast, a corporation that wouldn't back down easily. What price would they pay for their stand? Tomorrow, we start the petition, she announced, her voice unwavering despite her worries. And we'll march to City Hall next week. We'll get the attention we deserve. Cheers filled the room once again, but this time it felt different. There was a quiet understanding that this was just the beginning. Plans started forming, alliances took shape. As the meeting wrapped up and everyone departed, Sarah felt the spirit of the community stirring within her, pulling her into something larger than herself. But as she stood alone in the emptying room, a cold chill ran down her spine. What if they faced backlash? What if St. Mary's wasn't the only thing at stake? The fight was on, but at what cost? Sarah took a deep breath, knowing this wouldn't be easy. Yet as she looked out the door at the last faces leaving, she couldn't deny it, their collective strength was something to behold. As she turned off the lights and locked the door, one burning question stayed with her. Were they truly ready for what lay ahead? The following morning felt heavy as Sarah woke before the sun. The birds outside chirped a melody of hope, but all she could think about was the battle ahead. She got dressed, her mind racing with the risks they were about to take. Within an hour, she was in the kitchen, coffee brewing as she scoured papers for her notes from last night. Each story shared in the meeting circled in her mind. It was a reminder of who they were fighting for, and for all that St. Mary's had been a lifeline, a sanctuary. The warmth of the coffee cup felt good in her hands as John arrived. He looked determined, just like she felt. Ready for today? He asked, his voice steady. I am, she answered, though doubt twisted in her stomach. But what if they don't listen? Then we make them hear us. We gather even more stories, he assured her. They can't ignore a whole city. As they set out to gather signatures for the petition, Sarah was surprised by how many people approached them. Neighbors she hadn't spoken to in years embraced her, sharing their bonds to St. Mary's, expressing their support. The shared memories flowed like a river, bringing with them a powerful current of determination. Do you remember the time my little Tommy broke his arm? An elderly lady recalled, her eyes shimmering. The nurses made him feel like a superhero, even with that big cast. It was like they turned fear into courage. With each signature, Sarah felt the weight begin to lift. This wasn't just any hospital. It was a home filled with warmth and care. They were starting to create a tapestry of stories, each thread reinforcing their resolve. As they walked through the neighborhood, she noticed the subtle changes in people's expressions. Some initially hesitant now looked inspired. A few even joined them. The energy was building. By lunchtime, the petition was gaining momentum. We've got over 100 signatures. John exclaimed, vibrant with excitement as he counted them. More than I expected, she admitted, a smile breaking through her earlier dread. This can really work. But then, her heart sank a little. She couldn't shake the feeling that the corporation they faced wouldn't back down lightly. Would they spread lies to undermine them? Would they target those who had come forward? As they reached the park, a small group stood near the fountain. A woman in a red scarf caught her eye, talking passionately to a few people who looked confused. The woman waved them over. You've got to see this, she shouted, urgency lacing her voice. Sarah and John rushed closer, and the woman held out a flyer. They're planning to hold a demolition event, a public spectacle to drive the final nail in the coffin for St. Mary's. It's happening next week. A cold chill swept over Sarah again, this time heavier. We have to go public. We need to rally before that event. The urgency buzzed through them, shaking off any lingering fears. What they were up against was beginning to take shape, and it wasn't just about the hospital anymore. It was about everything St. Mary's represented. With newfound determination, they gathered their coalition while ideas flowed. They would hit the streets every day leading up to the demolition event. They needed to unite their community even more. But even as hope surged inside her, an uneasy thought nagged at Sarah. What if their mounting success turned them into targets? She felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. They retreated to her home that evening, surrounded by the warmth of what they built. But as darkness fell, her fears crept back in. The question hovered persistently. Were they prepared to take on the beast that threatened them, or could they make a difference while keeping themselves safe? A knock on the door startled her from her thoughts. A figure appeared, silhouetted against the porch light, wide-eyed and nervous. I have something important to tell you about the corporation. Sarah's heart raced. Who was this stranger, and what could they know? The stranger stepped into the light, revealing a thin man with tremors in his hands. His eyes darted around, expecting shadows where there were none. With a small clearing of his throat, he spoke. I'm Ethan. I used to work for the corporation. I have information you need. Sarah exchanged a glance with John, both apprehensive and curious. She motioned for Ethan to sit down. What do you know? He took a deep breath, visibly struggling to steady his thoughts. They're planning more than just the demolition. They want to discredit your movement, to silence anyone who stands against them. The words hit Sarah like a brick. Discredit? How? They've got private investigators, Ethan said, his voice lowering as if fearing someone might overhear him. They're looking for dirt, any weakness they can exploit. They'll target people who sign the petition, question their credibility. A knot tightened in Sarah's stomach. They want to scare us? Exactly, he replied, desperation in his tone. I've seen it before with other projects. They'll stop at nothing. Why are you telling us all this? John asked, his voice firm. You could be putting yourself at risk. Ethan shifted uneasily in his chair. I can't stay quiet anymore. I thought I could just do my job and walk away, but the lies they spin it haunts me. He looked directly at Sarah. You need to prepare. They want to play fair. The shadow of doubt loomed heavy, threatening to snuff out the fire they had ignited with their community. But instead of fear, a sense of resolve grew stronger within Sarah. We'll stay united, she said, her voice steadying. And we'll expose whatever they try to hide. Ethan nodded slowly. You have to get the word out, share your stories widely, even beyond the neighborhood. Create a buzz they can't ignore. John leaned forward, excitement mingling with anxiety. What if we call a town hall meeting? We can get everyone in one place to share their stories. Strength in numbers, right? Ethan's eyes lit up, but then darkened again. That could work, but you have to be cautious. They may not sit idly by while you rally support. Sarah felt her heart race again, but this time it was a thrilling rush. There was strength in vulnerability. Sharing their fears could transform them into hope. We've faced adversity before. This could be our moment to shine, taking back what's ours, what we believe in. Ethan smiled, if only briefly. Just remember to watch your backs. Trust no one outside your circle until this is over. After he left, Sarah and John sat in silence, processing the gravity of what lay ahead. The stakes had never been higher, but neither had their hope. They started drafting plans for their town hall meeting, their spirits lifted by the strength of community. As the evening deepened, a thought struck Sarah, a flicker of innovation igniting within her. What if they could pull together stories in a way that no one would forget? A video, something that spoke directly to the heart of the issue. Let us make a documentary, she said, her voice tinged with excitement. We could showcase how St. Mary's touched lives. Make it impossible for the corporation to ignore us. John grinned, his eyes sparkling with possibility. That could give people a reason to care, something real to hold on to. They began brainstorming content, the flickering light of determination spreading through every word and idea. But as their enthusiasm swelled, Sarah couldn't shake the lingering fear for those who had already spoken up. They were all moving into dangerous territory, and not every battle ended in victory. That a sudden thought tugged at her mind. As stark as a warning bell, was their growing coalition also becoming a target? Would their commitment to St. Mary's put the lives of the people they cared about at risk? Just as she was about to voice her concerns, another knock echoed through the quiet house. This time, it felt different. A sense of urgency rippled through her as she opened the door again. Two shadowy figures loomed outside, their faces obscured. We need to talk about what you're planning. Sarah's heart skipped a beat, an icy grip tightening. Who were they, and what did they want? As Sarah stood at the door, her heart raced. The shadows moved slightly, revealing two hooded figures, their features veiled in darkness. They shifted from foot to foot, exuding an unsettling mix of urgency and intimidation. What do you want? She managed to ask, her voice steadier than she felt. One figure stepped slightly forward, the dim light catching a glimpse of slick hair and sunken cheeks. You're gathering a lot of attention, he said, his voice smooth yet laced with a menacing undertone. And we can't have that. Sarah felt John move up behind her, protective instincts flaring. We're just trying to stand up for what's right, he declared, defiance coursing through him. You can't intimidate us. The second figure smirked, though the expression was mostly hidden. Intimidation? Oh, we're not here to intimidate. Just to remind you where you stand. He leaned in closer, the faint smell of smoke and old leather wafting toward her. The corporation has eyes everywhere. They don't like people stirring up trouble. A swell of fear knotted Sarah's stomach, but she squared her shoulders. This community deserves to be heard. You can't silence us just because it's inconvenient for you. For a moment, silence stretched between them. The wind rustled through the trees outside, a cold reminder of the stakes they faced. The figures exchanged brief glances, perhaps debating how far they were willing to go. Finally, the first figure spoke again, his tone shifting slightly. "Do you really think you can win this? Fight against something so powerful?" "Yes," John interjected, his resolve a beacon in the dim light. "People like us can make a difference. Maybe, but at what cost?" The second figure replied, a hint of concern edging into his voice. "Those who oppose the corporation face consequences. Think about it." The air thickened with tension. Sarah's mind raced. Had they come to deliver a warning? Or were they subtly urging her to back down? "We're not backing down," she said firmly, meeting the eyes that glinted with challenge. "You're trying to scare us, but we're stronger together." The figures straightened, tension radiating off them. It was a struggle on the edge of a knife, where threats mingled with the potential for conversation. She could see a flicker of uncertainty cross their faces. Perhaps they didn't want blood on their hands. Maybe they had doubts of their own. "Whatever happens next," the first figure said softly, "remember that you were warned." Without another word, they turned and melted back into the night. The door swung closed behind them, and a heavy silence filled the room. "What just happened?" John asked, his voice tight. "I don't know, but it feels like we're being watched," Sarah whispered, her mind racing. "We need to move fast." They settled back into their planning, a sense of urgency igniting their thoughts. But the shadows loomed larger now, and the weight of their task felt heavier. As Sarah drafted notes for the town hall meeting, her fingers trembled. Would there be repercussions for those who dared to speak up? Did they really know what they were getting into? An idea struck her again, this time fiercer. They needed security, a way to protect those willing to share their stories. Perhaps even banding together with others to form not just a collective voice, but a shield against potential backlash. "It's not just about raising awareness," she said to John, determination lighting her eyes. "We have to protect our people, make sure every voice is safe. Let us gather a group who can mobilize." "We need allies," John replied, excitement building in his tone. As they delved back into their strategies, Sarah felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. A fight was brewing, but it wasn't just for St. Mary's anymore. It had grown into a cause that transcended their own community. With each heartbeat, the stakes escalated. The corporation wouldn't take this lying down, and neither would they. But Sarah couldn't ignore the gnawing thought: what were the consequences if they pushed too hard, too fast? And at that moment, another knock echoed at the door. She froze, feeling her pulse quicken. Who was it this time? Would it be more threats, or help from an unexpected ally? "Are we ready for whatever comes next?" she whispered to John, her heart racing. "There's no turning back now," he answered, resolute. As she reached for the doorknob, uncertainty flooded her mind. Would this be the reinforcement they needed, or would they unveil yet another layer of danger that lay ahead? As Sarah turned the doorknob, her heart thrummed like a drum, each pulse charged with a blend of hope and dread. The door creaked open, and standing there was an unexpected figure: Emily, one of the most vocal supporters against the corporation. Her usually bright face was now drawn tight with concern. "Sarah, John," she gasped, stepping inside quickly, glancing back over her shoulder as if expecting someone to follow. "You won't believe what I just found out." "What is it?" Sarah asked, urgency creeping into her voice. The weight of the world had already settled on her shoulders, and now it felt heavier. "They're planning something big," Emily rushed, her eyes wide. "I overheard some workers at the factory. They're ramping up production for something shady, but they're keeping it under wraps. If we don't act fast, they might launch before we're ready." "What do you mean, launch?" John demanded, his protective nature flaring again. "What are they up to?" "Some kind of project," Emily replied, her voice low, heavy with the revelation. "It's being tied to something that could damage our community even more. Think of the contamination pollution that could seep into the river. They know we're organizing, so they're tightening the grip. People need to know about this," Sarah exclaimed, feeling a surge of urgency. She glanced at John, who nodded, understanding what she meant. "We need to get this information out before they can twist it. We might be the only people who could stop them." Emily leaned closer, her voice a whisper. "The meeting at the town hall. We can bring this to the community, but we have to be careful. They might try to silence us." John stepped forward, his brow furrowing. "We need to build a network, then get the trust of the townsfolk, prepare them for what's coming." But we also need to protect those who are willing to speak up. They're vulnerable. Sarah's mind raced. There was a fire igniting within her, pushing her forward. We can set up an information session. Create a safe space where people can share their fears and learn what is happening. We need to rally the town. Emily smiled, a flicker of hope piercing through her earlier fear. And we can spread flyers and use social media. There are plenty of people who care, they just need a reason to act. They quickly jumped into planning mode, ideas bouncing back and forth like sparks. But amidst the excitement, an underlying current of trepidation slithered through the air. What if the figures from earlier were just the start? What if they were only the first of many who would push back against their movement? Just then, John's phone buzzed with an alert. He glanced at the screen, his expression shifting from enthusiasm to alarm. It's a news update. There's a protest planned against us at the town hall meeting. They're going to try and drown us out. Fear gripped Sarah's heart once more. We can't let them intimidate us. This is our chance, she insisted. We need to prepare everyone for their tactics. We need to be ready. As they formulated their plans, Sarah thought of the stakes. The shadow of the corporation loomed, growing darker and more menacing as their resolve solidified. With each passing moment, the path ahead felt more perilous. Outside, the wind howled, echoing the turmoil brewing inside her. She shivered, not just from the chill, but from the recognition of what they were up against. But then, there it was again, a spark of determination igniting within her chest. They had each other. Together, they could stand against the tide. But as they coordinated their next steps, another sound filled the air, a low rumble, deep and threatening. The ground seemed to shake beneath their feet, as if warning them that forces were already in motion. Did you feel that? Emily asked, eyes wide. What was that? John replied, a knot tightening in his stomach. And in that moment, deep down, they knew it was more than just the earth trembling. It was a sign, a reminder that they were heading straight into a storm and the real battle was just beginning. What would it take to face the impending chaos? And who else would step forward to join their fight? As the sun rose on the day of the town hall meeting, Sarah could hardly contain her nerves. She fluffed her hair, adjusted her blouse, and paced the kitchen like a lion in a cage. Today wasn't just about St. Mary's. It was about every story, every family, and every heartbeat that had thrived within its walls. It was about standing tall against the shadows that threatened to wipe all that away. Mom, are you ready? Lily's voice floated from the living room. Sarah took a moment to breathe, inhaling hope with each breath. She stepped into the hall, taking in the bright faces of her children. Stephen looked a little tense, but excitement sparkled in Lily's eyes. Today's the day, right? Lily said, beaming. We're going to show them what our town is made of. Yes, Sarah replied, a smile breaking through her anxiety. Together, we are unstoppable. As they made their way to the community center, the trio worked as one cohesive unit. The streets buzzed with anticipation. Sarah glanced at her neighbors, friends she'd known for years, and felt pride swell in her chest. They were ready to fight. When they arrived, the room was packed. There were familiar faces: John, Emily, and even Alice, the single mother who had stood up at their last meeting. Every hand raised to share their story was a testament to their shared mission. Sarah stepped up to the podium, the weight of the moment both thrilling and terrifying. She looked at the crowd, scanning their hopeful faces that shimmering with courage. Today, we come together not only to protect St. Mary's Hospital, but to uphold the values of our community: love, care, and determination. Cheers erupted in the room, a wave of sound that washed over her like a warm embrace. She shared the stories: the little boy who had been treated for a broken arm, the elderly women who found comfort during their hardest moments, and families that had found solace in St. Mary's care. The energy surged like electricity, but the mood shifted when she outlined the threat ahead. We've learned the corporation doesn't see us or our stories. They only see dollars, she said, her voice sharp with conviction. As we stand united, we must be vigilant. They will try to intimidate us, but we must not falter. The crowd erupted into applause, words of encouragement weaving their way through the air. But somewhere in Sarah's heart, fear clamored for attention. Would their voices truly drown out the malevolence bearing down on them? Just then, a voice emerged from the back, a young man in a hoodie. With worry etched across his face, he pushed forward. What if they come after us when we leave? His words sliced through the optimism like a cold knife. Murmurs filled the room as heads turned. It was the harsh tweet of reality. With a steady gaze, Sarah spoke again. They may try to intimidate us, but we have each other. We will leave together, as a family out there, and support anyone who feels threatened. They can't tear us apart. With a cheer, the room cascaded back into hope. They reshaped their plans. Volunteers organized safe escort groups. Phone trees were established to keep everyone updated. They set up a system for sharing concerns and gathering evidence if threats arose. As the meeting concluded, Sarah walked outside with her family and friends, the energy electric. Cameras flashed as reporters rushed to capture the unity. The visible strength radiated, illuminating every corner of their small town. But just as she felt a surge of victory, a shiver ran down her spine. In the distance, she noticed shadowy figures gathering down the street. The menacing energy coiled in the air. Panic knotted within her. There they are, John remarked, eyes narrowing. Before anyone could react, the figures stepped forward, men in suits, a dark storm looming over their plans. Ladies and gentlemen, one of them shouted, voice oozing confidence. We need to discuss the unfolding events, but the crowd didn't waver. Sarah could feel hearts beating as one. We want to be silenced, she shouted, stepping forward, heart pounding like a drum. We want to let you take what? S ours, echoed John, standing beside her, defiance electrifying the air. The crowd surged forward like a tidal wave, and an unexpected voice broke through. It was Alice. We are the community. We are St. Mary's. From every corner, voices rose, merging in a powerful chorus. We will fight. Together. As the tension simmered, a realization washed over Sarah like a warm tide. They weren't just individuals standing against a corporation, they were a collective force fueled by love, sacrifice, and unyielding spirit. In that moment, their fear turned to strength. They wouldn't walk away from this fight, they would embrace it. Sarah turned to her family, her children's faces shining with determination and pride. Let us show them what we're made of, she declared. As cheers echoed, she knew this was only the beginning. Together, they would rise a community united. Together, they would reclaim what was rightfully theirs. That was the moment Sarah realized. They were not just fighting for a hospital. They were fighting for their lives, their souls, and nothing would tear them apart. And as the crowd marched forward, hand in hand, heart in heart, Sarah knew they would stand firm against any storm. The fight was on, and they were ready for it all. This is the moment. You need to subscribe now to catch every twist and turn of this inspiring story and more. Hit that like button, fuel the algorithm to bring more stories to life. Comment below your thoughts and feelings about this incredible transformation and share this journey with at least 5 friends right now. Don't wait, not even one more second. Let us inspire others together.